fertility journey has come to an end. And it may have not ended the way I was hoping or expected it to, but either way, I have learned a lot on this journey, and I am so thankful to you all that have shown your support throughout this and your love. Honestly, your kind words mean more than anything. The fact that people are in my corner or, still respecting me, still giving me kind words and, not what I see or hear every single day. It's very heartwarming, and I just absolutely adore each and every one of you. So I want to say thank you to every single one of you. But a lot of you guys did have questions about certain videos or certain things that I had, come upon during my fertility journey, or, you had other alternatives, and I left them kind of mostly unanswered through posting the journey because I wanted to answer them in my own words versus typing them and leaving them there. I want to do it the way I do my Q&As. So let's get to your comments and questions, because I am excited and not excited about commenting back to some of these, but at the same time, I think some of these that maybe might be more on the heinous side are necessary to comment back to, because a lot of people look at people with disabilities or uniquenesses or differences and put them in a box. And I am constantly trying to break that box. And in order to break that box, you do need to talk to the people that are mindset-wise trying to keep you in that box, because without hopefully changing their minds, then the world's not going to fully change. But let's get started. So I do not still keep in touch with Abraham, or some people know him as the really tall guy I went on a date with to axe throwing on Shauna Rae. I am Shauna Rae. I don't think we kept in touch past that Christmas. I think we talked to each other, but I don't really know why. I mean, I can put my thoughts into it because my sister dived into his Facebook and some things came to light. So I can probably put two and two together, but I can tell you by the text that I wasn't looking for anything. So I wasn't pushing to try to see him again or anything. I think if anything, if a friendship came out of it, I would have been dope. But if I wasn't looking for anything to come out of that. So if there was even a chance, I squashed it. So I've acknowledged my periods in a previous video, and you can actually find it on a lot of my socials. But to sum it up, yes, I get my period. I was put on a hormonal blocker to try to prevent my period from starting because I showed developmental signs at the same kind of age as every other female that progresses that way or person that progresses that way. My dwarfism, my, pituitary issues did not affect my puberty progression. It did affect my fertility, but we didn't know that because puberty has to progress in order for you to do that kind of stuff. And it was also the late 90s, early 2000s, and the fertility knowledge is not as vast then as it is now. So, doctors were doing what they needed to do, and they put me on a puberty blocker. And I went on that puberty blocker and stayed on growth hormones to kind of lengthen the time frame that I had to grow. Because once I hit my puberty, once my period started, the doctors were guaranteeing that I wasn't going to grow past that more than a couple inches. When puberty hits for females, they informed me that you don't tend to grow as much. That's usually when women stop. Now, that's not true for everyone, but that was the case most of the time back in the early 2000s. And 2016 is when I stopped growing. And so from 2012 to 2016, I was put on a puberty blocker, given all the growth hormone that I could take, and this time my body accepted that round, while my body previously rejected it in the past. And, one day I forgot to take the pill, which is funny because it probably was like some form of birth control pill in a sense. But I forgot to take the pill, and my meds, I guess not being in my system, my puberty and my period were like next day. And so we talked to my doctor, and he said, well, take all the growth hormone that you can. Your puberty has started, so we have to, acknowledge the fact that you're not going to grow that much now. At 3 foot 10, you're not going to get 2 feet after puberty. You might get an inch or 2 at your luck with the way your growth hormone is, so basically dormant. And so I've gotten my period since 16, and, as someone with dwarfism, as someone who was on all these hormones, I do think that affected it. I do think, it was spotty in the beginning. I got on birth control at 19, so from 16 to 19, I got it every 3 to 6 months. And it was 3 days or it was 13 days. It was weird. And it was either really light or really, really heavy and painful. And I never actually got cramps. So when I say painful, I don't mean like stomach cramps. And so I never got cramps, and then I got on birth control, and that stabilized the time. So I would get my period once a month, 3 to 4 days. It was very light, and I started to develop cramps. And ever since then, I've always had cramps, and I kind of hate birth control because they gave me cramps. But then I went on a internal thing called Nexplanon, and I went on that for 2 years, from like 22 to 22, and that took my period away. And then I took that out to begin my fertility treatments, and I've had my period normal, kind of regular, and I think every once in a while, depending on my life, depends on when it trips up. But that's normal for a period. That's a typical thing that you go through. So when it comes to a lot of things in my life, I've progressed like an average person. There are just some things like my growth, my dental, my fertility that did not progress. So when it comes to the medicine and hormones they'll be putting me on, or would be putting me on if I had gone through with the fertility treatments, I didn't actually take the Zoom meeting to ask about all of these hormones, so I'm not 100% sure on, specifics, but the fertility treatments that I was going to undergo, the doctors knew that this was caused by cancer. And they never informed me that, these medicines or these hormones or whatever I'll be taking might have an issue because of my previous cancer or chemotherapy. I think they were always taking that into account. They all were always acknowledging it. They had my full history. And, maybe the ones I saw on TLC weren't giving me the full information because I did learn that I had gone lower than they had informed me since my second test. But the ones I went through on my personal journey definitely acknowledged everything. They definitely acknowledged that, if my cancer was genetic or was it not genetic? I did a whole, donor screening scan. I filled out paperwork for that, and they had all of my backstory information for that. And I did that just in case I needed to use a surrogate. So they had all of my family history, and they took that into account. And I think the medicine and the hormones they would have put me on would have been ones that would not have caused issues, given my family history. Because I have a family history of high diabetes, or not diabetes, maybe diabetes on my bio, that's it, I'm not sure. But high cholesterol, diabetes, a lot of lung and BRCA gene-related cancers, a lot of thyroid issues, and a lot of, not a lot of brain aneurysms, but a little brain aneurysms, and a couple deformities for growth in children. The infantile disease was on my mom's side, a little down the line. But either way, they knew all of that because they asked for the history from your parents, your grandparents, your cousins, your, I think, siblings, yourself, and then I'm not sure if they cover your aunt and uncles, I can't remember, but they ask if there's anything else you want to include. And I think it's smart to include that sometimes, because even though one of your aunts and uncles isn't directly related to you, the other one is, and if that one's the one that connected to the disease that may have been caused in the cousin, then you need to know. But, they're covering your cousins. So, either way, I don't think they would have put me at risk. I can't say for sure, though. I think you should always do your research, and when it comes to if you go on the journey like this yourself and they're talking about putting you on hormones or medications or stuff, you should definitely ask, okay, what is this? What is it going to do to me? All those kind of questions. What about my previous history? Blah, blah, blah. Because it is important to know 100% about what's going on. Something I've learned medically from being like a cancer baby and being in the hospitals in and out is that if you don't know what's going on, then it's very easy to get lost and just be a yes man. And you never want to be a yes man when it comes to your own body. You never want to just be like, okay, take this pill. You have to know what you're doing. My doctors were so thorough even when I was a child about the growth hormones and what is it and how is it going to feel and how it goes into my body and, how we take care of it and all of the steps, even though I was a child, like 10 years old. And, I took that upon myself to give myself my medication because I may have not had the right people to take care of it during the night sometimes, but at the same time, I needed to know what was going on with my body. I, as a child, remember bruising and just asking, why is it hurting? And, my doctors gave me the answers. And I think that is one of the reasons that I can, understand so much more about my situation. Because my doctors actually sat me down at a young age and explained what's going on to me. They didn't treat me like I didn't have the mental capability to understand. So I would challenge anyone else going through a situation. Make sure you know what's going on. You never want to be a yes man when it comes to your own body. So, if it came down to surrogacy and I had an egg that I needed someone to surrogate, I would definitely think family or friends first. Now, if it was my own egg, yes, family would be number one. My doctor has told me that it's best to try with family and stuff first because it's less likely that the egg is going to be rejected from the body. But at the end of the day, would my sisters do it? I don't think so. Riley, I don't think wants to carry children, and Tara, I think only wants to carry one child. I don't think either one of them are looking to carry more and be pregnant more often. Now, when it comes to my friends, I have had a friend telling me while I was going through this journey that if I needed someone, that she would do it. She's offered it to a couple people and she looks at me like a sister and that she would do it. And I would totally choose a friend or a family member over a complete stranger because, if it's a surrogate situation, I want to have control kind of what's going on with the baby. And I know you can't control everything, but I can at least, make sure that the pregnancy is healthy. And with a stranger, and you're paying them, that's their job. So it's a little easier, I guess, but it's also harder for me to be no, do it, stranger. With a family member or a friend, I can be like, nah, this is my baby. Shut the fuck up, sit down, and eat this healthy food. Work out, do it. You're going for a jog. Whatever. Whatever I would want them to do, because I wouldn't want, certain aspects during a pregnancy. I would want to treat the pregnancy like how I would treat the pregnancy. And, if there's a certain risk, then we need to acknowledge that. And, there's a little difference when going at it that someone you're paying, but the finances are ridiculous to pay for a surrogate. But I would also compensate my family or friend because I think it is an incredible thing to do for someone. And you can never say thank you enough. So, to compensate them in any way possible, I would want to do. I could potentially see one of my sisters donating one of their eggs. But I don't know if they would go through the process. I know my sister Tara and I have talked about the fact that, if I was going to get my eggs frozen and I was successful and, she was in need of an egg, she could take mine. And she's like, no, that'd be weird because then it'd be Jesse and yours kid. And I was like, no, that's not how that works. She's like, but it's your egg. I'm like, but it's your kid. I don't want that responsibility. Don't want that child. No, thank you. It's yours. And, so she found it a little odd. So I feel like she would have more of a mental struggle with it. While Riley, I feel like, would not want to go through the physical surgery. I feel like Riley would definitely be down for it. I mean, I'm not 100% sure on where she is with, supporting myself in this journey. But I would hope so with our relationship that she would support me if I did come to her in need. But we'll see if that day comes. At the end of the day, I do think that the option is open, but I can never say for sure because, when I ask or if I asked, it would be later down the line. There'll be at different points in their life. Maybe Tara will already have a kid. And Riley, who knows? Maybe she'll be in the middle of nowhere singing in the mountains. Never know with that girl. And, it may be an inopportune time for them, but at the same time, I don't think the door is closed with that. I don't think it would happen at the same time. I think that ultimately I would be kind of left with no answer from them and have to go with a donor egg. My fertility journey is not 100% complete within this process. If I decided to freeze my egg and I was successful, I don't know what I would do with that egg. If I later decided that I didn't want to have children, I would definitely put it up in the air for, donation. But at the same time, if I myself go through the process of this fertility journey, get an egg, freeze it for however so many years, then I kind of finally decide that I'm at a place that I'm ready, to have a child, that I feel like adoption at that point may be unnecessary, unless somewhere within the process of making the egg and embryo and then it developing into a human being, then within that process, if somewhere down the line I change my mind, or, I keep going back and forth, then maybe adoption is the answer. I'm not there yet, so we don't know exactly what would happen. I'm never going to say that putting the child up for adoption wouldn't be an answer. I just know that adoption is a very hard process. So maybe I would look for, like a small adoption, like a local adoption or something, where I know that the child is going to a home right away. I don't know if I could put a child in the system, given the fact that I know so many people who have gone through the system. And at the end of the day, I think if I go through this process and I freeze an egg, then I'm going to keep my egg or eggs frozen until I am mentally and financially mature enough to decide to care for another human being. And if I go through the process of making my egg an embryo and the embryo a human child, then I would hope that by then I am ready to care for the child. But if not, then yeah, adoption is always an option. I don't think the finances of when I have the physical child are going to be the problem, because I do want to wait till I'm financially prepared. I think the finances right now going to start the process are a little more difficult, because I am financially immature, and I'm hoping to become financially more mature. I can't afford to spend like $35,000 on a surgery, and I think at the end of the day, when I decide to have a child and bring a physical human being into this world, that I would be financially mature. At least I hope. But you never know. My mom has always taught me something, and that you are never fully prepared for anything. So when it comes to food improving the odds, I'm actually not 100% sure on whether it's actually possible or not. I know that there's certain beliefs out there, and there's certain studies out there, but I have never been told by someone that, hey, maybe you should try this to help you out. I've also never been told medically during the journey that I should be eating certain things or avoiding certain things. I am allergic to MSG, additives, emulsifiers, bleach products and all that stuff. I can have some of it, but it sends my brain into a haywire. I can't have MSG or Red 40 or things like that at all. Bleach products are here and there. I can't have certain meats. So my food intake is already pretty limited. So I don't know if, knowing my diet, my doctors would have even felt that they could have told me to avoid or intake certain foods. But at the same time, no one ever brought up a diet. I never talked to a nutritionist on this subject. But that is a good question, and I definitely think for people who are looking into fertility definitely should look into it. But I do think that given the case with my cancer and the fact that I was already so low, even if food could help, I don't know if it would have helped enough within the time frame that I was working with to help me see such a high level raise that I could have had more time. At the end of the day, I was dropping levels within a month that they thought were dropping every 2 years. And I was going at a faster pace than they were expecting. And my body was just, didn't want to have a baby, I guess. But I do think that not everyone is meant to have one, and that our paths will all lead us to where we're supposed to be. Well, first off, I would like to say there is a stigma when it comes to people that are disabled, and a lot of people think that if someone is disabled that they are mentally and physically handicapped, which is not true. Mental and physical handicaps can be separate or blended together. Each individual person that has a handicap, it's an individual, unique handicap. Does not mean that person is put into a category of physical or mental or emotionally disabled. Those are all different levels, and each person is different. Now, when it comes to myself, my physical development did not stop at 8, 9, 10, 11. My mental development did not stop at 8, 9, 10, 11. I am constantly breaking the stigma that I am in the body of a young child, because that is the verbiage that TLC had put with me. It's what got y'all's attention. That's all it was, is an attention grabber. It does not ring true. Now, my body, yes, is shorter statured. Yes, is proportional. But it is not that of a young child. I have physical definition. I have muscle intake. I have fat intake. I have maturity here, all of those areas. I have gotten my puberty. I've gotten my period. My facial features are different. If you compare me side by side to an 8-year-old, 10-year-old, 11-year-old, 9-year-old, whatever age you think I am, that you want to compare me to, if you stand me next to them, you can spot the difference. And overall, if you break my face and my characteristics down, they are not childlike. Now, when it comes to my mental capability, that never stopped maturing. And I would like you all to know that it will never stop maturing. Just like every other human being, my brain and my mental capability will continue to grow. Because that's the one thing human beings never stop doing, is growing. If you're not growing as a human being mentally, then you're not doing your job as a human being. I have studied complex situations. I've done a lot in my life, and my mental capability did not stop at a young age. I have the mental maturity and the mental development beyond 10 or 11 years old. I don't think I stopped in 5th grade. My math, my English, my history, my anatomy, all of that has expanded beyond 5th grade. I can't even remember what we took in 5th grade. Social studies? That's actually history. Maths, science, anatomies. I've taken forensics. I've done a lot more than a 10 or 11-year-old would have done at their normal mental progression, unless they are a super baby. Hail to the super babies. Overall, we need to break the stigmas that come with disabilities. That if one is physically disabled, they are mentally disabled or emotionally disabled, and vice versa. That is not true for the disabled community. Disabilities come in all forms, shapes, and sizes, and we need to acknowledge that as a community and a society, and we need to educate ourselves on it. It is important to understand the differences. It is important to educate oneself on the differences and know how to approach people. Questions aren't a terrible situation unless you point it a certain way. And we also need to stop aligning me with the verbiage person that is stuck in a young body. I am a young woman, yes. I am not stuck in the body of a child, the body of a young child, an 8, 9, 10, 11-year-old. My mental, physical, social, and emotional maturity is well beyond that of a 10 and 11-year-old. My maturity is well beyond that of a child in any sense, teenager as well. My maturity is that of an adult, because I am an adult. I am disabled, I am a little person, but I am an adult through and through. Okay, so there's a lot to break down with this one. One, I am not too small to have a child. Actually, plenty of people with dwarfism, smaller and larger than me, have successfully had children. I have also been greenlit by my doctor, my high-risk pregnancy doctor, to, if I want, to carry a child to full term. Yes, I would be on watch, and yes, it would be, a little different. I'd come see my doctor a little more, but there's nothing that would say, hey, you can't have a child for the sake of you or the child. It's not going to happen. If I wanted to carry a child, I could. Of course, it would be a C-section. I don't even want to. My doctor doesn't even want to. She's like, I don't even want to talk about that. It's just automatic C-section. Now, when it comes to I would die. Now, there is a certain risk no matter what with any pregnancy that the person who is pregnant may, die. It is a risk in general with pregnancy. I think that people don't acknowledge it as much. Yes, it probably is a little higher when you're disabled or you have a smaller body, but that is why certain precautions are made, and I would be on watch, and certain things would happen if I decided to become pregnant. That year of my life would just be one medical year. And my baby would not suffer. If I did pass away, yes, my baby would suffer. But if I didn't pass away, my baby would not suffer. My baby is not going to suffer in any way, and if they were, then the doctors would take care of it, and we would do what is necessary for the child, just like any other pregnancy. Every pregnancy carries that risk that the child could suffer. My first sister, Tara, she was born and the umbilical cord got wrapped around her head. Things happen. Things just happen during birth. It's a difficult situation. So no matter what, the child could suffer in some sense. There's all sorts of actual situations that have happened to children during birth in average pregnancies, where the person was not disabled or had dwarfism or was as small stature as I. So it happens all over the board. Why am I even trying? Because if I don't try, then I will ask what if my entire life. And I don't ask what if. I don't do what ifs. I think that if you are passionate about something or you feel a certain way about something, you should put your effort into it. And that is what I am doing. I am trying because I want to see if it is possible. And if it is possible, I would be happy with that decision. If it's not possible, I will find a way to be happy. Why you're even trying, it's none of your business. It's my business. It's my decision. It's my life. I can choose what to do with it. Go adopt. They need you more than I need having a suffering child. That is just very malicious. Yes, children need adopted. I will not deny that. But I don't need to have a child out of my egg. If you've watched this entire journey that I've put out there, I have been open to the ideas of adoption and all sorts of surrogacy and donation. And my child wouldn't be suffering. My condition is not genetic. My child would be born as an average human being, believe it or not. My child would not suffer any more than having a mom that is disabled, and the adopted child would suffer in the same way. So, your point of view, I don't quite understand, but at the same time, I hope you understand that where you're coming from is probably not where I am in my situation. At the end of the day, my choices are my choices, And yes, certain people will have to pay for them. If I choose to bring a child into the world, they have to pay for those choices. I had to pay for my parents' choices. And in a sense, we could all call that suffering. I can't stop a human being from feeling any sort of suffering, no matter what decision I decide to make. So when we say suffer, I think that's impossible to avoid. Okay, y'all, so that is everything that I have chosen to comment back to, and I hope you enjoyed the answers to the questions. And for those of you that side with the more, why am I doing this or whatever your opinion is, I hope you understand that this is my journey and I can choose to do what I want with my life. And I'm taking you along for the ride as a privilege. You don't have to be here, but at the end of the day, if you are here, I hope you learn something, and I hope it just makes you feel something. No matter what, I am making you feel something, which I feel like people reflect on. And I feel like when we're angry and when we're upset by something, we don't reflect on why we're feeling that way as much. So I just want to challenge you all to reflect on the feelings that my videos, my channel, my content makes you feel and why it makes you feel that way. Because if we get down to the root of it, we can start solving the problem. Because at the end of the day, I'm no different than anyone else. I can decide to make the choices I want to make, no matter what the outcomes may be, and no one should be able to judge me by those decisions because they have not walked in my shoes. At the end of the day, though, I do hope you have enjoyed this video and enjoyed all these questions and comments. And I can't wait to take you guys on the next part of my life journey, and we will see what happens. See you then. Bye, y'all!